That's what Catherine and I paid for. That was, of course, the last post, which Nicholas said, since Nicholas now knows, that's our son, Nicholas at Brandon University, but in the summers he's been spending his time teaching cadets music. And he said that since Bill was a major in the Air Force, he's allowed to play the last post. So that's the funeral side of things, the sadness of this month. But here we're moving on to a celebration of Bill and Betty's life. So feel free to wander around when we're talking and doing things today. And we'll have a few people talking memories of Grandma and Grandpa or Mom and Dad. I should introduce myself too. I'm Morgan, Catherine's husband. Just call me Catherine's husband if you can't remember. And I really enjoyed getting to know Bill and Betty over the years. They're really terrific parents-in-law, always warm and friendly. Bill and I cut a hole in the roof in our house in Manitoba, and it actually worked when we finished putting in a light tube through the roof, and it all held together and didn't leak. It was really good. And so it was always great. Bill always had the right tools, and if he didn't, he would go out and buy them. And I ended up inheriting a lot, which the boys, Paul and Larry, less so Doug, I guess, because of shipping costs, but they didn't need any more tools. They already had their set. So I ended up getting lots of good stuff over the years as well. Despite being an engineer, I'm on the trailing edge of technology, so I just wait until Bill got tired of something and hand it on to us. We've done really well over the years with that. So, of course, being Christmas time, now I have to tell a story. And a friend of mine, a Russian friend, his name's Rudy. He was looking out the window the other day, and up in Ottawa, it was raining as well. We live a couple hours up in Ottawa. And he said to his wife, he says, it's raining. His wife looked at him and said, no, it's snowing. He says, no, it's raining. And Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, dear. All right, that's why I have a day job. Okay, right now I think what we're going to do is hand over to my wife Catherine, and she's got a quick little slideshow, which Severin, our other son, will. You've been watching the slides of various things happening here, and you can catch all the people, and there's going to be a quiz at the end too. You have to identify who's who.
So the pictures you have been watching, Mom gave me many of their photographs in boxes a long time ago, and I threw out all the ones of the sunsets and the mountains that to me, I didn't know where they were taken, and I had digitized 700 of the favorite photographs, and that's what you've been watching. So it's a variety of pictures from long ago and not so long ago. But what I did is I took those pictures and I've just put a few of them together and sort of laid label them so you'll just know who's who. So it's a retrospective of Mom and Dad. Mom died in 2011, and Dad just died this month. So let's go to the next one, Seven. So this is for their 60th wedding anniversary. I put together a collection of who's who's and pictures and sort of where their roots are. Now this doesn't make sense to you, you see it from far away, but it's kind of a commemorative of where our roots are and kind of the history of the Brennan and Colotelo heritage. Go to the next one, second. So this is Ethel and Chris Brennan. So this is my grandparents or Mom's parents. And this is Mom. These are, as you can see, very young pictures. Mom was always mad, but the one on the right-hand side, this picture had been colorized. So I guess someone was taken in black and white, and they colorized the upper part of it, but they left her with brown socks. And she commented she would never wear brown socks. Now this is a picture that we saw at my Uncle Stuart's funeral. I had never seen it before, so I have two sons, and I can imagine that Grandma and Grandpa having two of the sons in the armed forces, and then Uncle Jack at the very end. He was, I think, in the cadets, is what Uncle Bob said. But can you imagine what they were going through at that time, at wartime, and to think of having 3 children potentially in the war? Although Stuart, who was the one at the very end, never saw real active service. He saw just a couple months of it because he was in a lot of training. So that really helped him. He enjoyed his war experience, but he spent most of it training. And then he did the cleanup afterwards. And I got those conversations with him. And there's Uncle Bob, a very, very young lad, and there's Mom in the kerchief. She's the only girl of the family. And here's some other pictures. I think my mom was beautiful. But I liked her as a young girl. I think that was with Aunt Kate's. They had an old folks home, and it was an opening of that day of the old folks home. And then there's Mom with her ruby red lipstick, which I'm not sure I'm so fond of that. She liked it. And then we're going to move on to my father's parents, and Annie and George, and then the little picture, this picture of a young me. And here's Dad being kind of silly in uniform. He is the fourth from the left, and they were just kind of goofing around in the training times. And again, probably the same buddies, but now they're at the beach and having a good time. Dad holding one of the cameras. Shorts. And these are lovely pictures of Mom and Dad in youth, and this would be early 50s, probably before they were married. I think 51 is the one on Dad on the right. I'm dating the one on Mom. And here's wedding day, April 23rd, and Mom and Dad. And I thought, I like that one on the right of Mom because she's talking and I think she's telling Dad what to do. I love this picture. I think it's so cute. We have Paul, who has a little patch on his bottom saying, "Patch me." And then we have Larry with his tongue out, Joyce with her tongue out, and Doug looking a little bit uncomfortable. And these are the Fab Four. So I was born 6 years after Paul was born. And this is just a lovely little photograph. You can see there's spots and all sorts of stuff on it, but it was great. And Mom's comment on this one, you can see Doug, who's second from the left, he had to show his thumb. It was all wrapped up in bandages, and she was so annoyed that this beautiful photograph, which she felt was ruined because of his thumb. Other than that, it's good. And here's on Divine Street, here's Grandma and Grandpa, 1958, and with the kids. And I love this photograph too. This is Dalmar Drive, so this is in Ottawa, and there's Doug, Larry, Joyce, and me and Paul, and we're holding our dog Axel. And here's Doug doing crazy things somewhere, and this picture's just kind of crazy. And here's Doug's wedding day in North Bay, and does anybody remember what year that was? 81. 81? Okay, so we have a selection of people, and it was a really nice wedding. It was very intimate and small, and we rented a room, I guess at the restaurant, and the wedding was in a church, I don't remember, but this part was just lots of fun, just the family getting together. here's Dad and Doug kind of puffing out their chests. It's probably in Alberta, I'm guessing. It's kind of a fun picture. So that's Doug, and now we're moving on to Joyce. And this is Joyce's two boys, Russell to the left, and very right is Phil. And Mom and Joyce in the middle. And here's Larry, Lee, and Brenda. And Larry, he spent some of his time as an undercover cop. So he had this very heavy beard, had a very heavy mustache, and lots of hair. So he looked like one of the druggies that he was trying to get rid of. And here's some more silly pictures. There were better pictures, but I wanted silly, was good. So we have Paul and Cindy, and is that the day you got married?
Yes,
The day after?
That's the day after.
Okay, and then we have children, and we have Brenda, Vicky, and Allison showing her new teeth, and then we have Andrew. And here's Angela and Vicky, and that's a lovely picture. And here's more grandchildren. So we have there's Russell and Brenda, Vicky, Allison, Philip, and Andrew. And then we have Morgan and I since 1984. And this is our wedding of August 31st. And we had more family members. And here's Mom and Severn and having a good time. And then we seem to spend a lot of time in the bathroom as a family. And it's training or otherwise. It's just a fun picture. And we also spent time in the kitchen, and here are the boys helping me cook, or bake, I guess. And then here's some grandchildren, here's Russell's kids. And so we have some houses, so we moved around a lot. This is in Ottawa, in Philport. And there's Russ and Phil in the backyard, sorry. And Mom and Dad also live in Florida, and those were good 10 years for them. And there's some more Florida pictures here, picking oranges in the backyard. And there's Henry the alligator, who would be swimming around the water, kind of come up and sun himself sometimes. This is kind of a 26 years apart. So here I am. What was Paul? Who's the name of that character? The lion? Oh, who? Maybe you knew it.
He's from Robin Hood.
Robin Hood? Anyway, I think it's interesting. So the Robin Hood that I posed with he looks sort of sinister because his eyebrows are kind of in a V towards each other. But the one that Vicky's with is quite a bit friendlier looking. So it's interesting how the ears change. And here's more orange picking in Florida. And being silly in Key West. And here's some of Mom's sibs. So we have Jack. I guess Bob, I think you're taking the picture. And we have Stuart as well. And there's Bob and Beulah. And I think this was on a cruise, is that right? Bob?
Yes.
Yeah, that was on the St. Lawrence or the Severn Trent, right? Trent Severn, yeah. And here's the house on the Rito, which was a very nice house. And this is by Birchview in Ottawa. I think this is Canadian Court, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yes, it is.
Okay. And then Glendale was their final house. And then there's some things they like to do. So Dad, just this in June, he got his hole-in-one. His third hole-in-one of his lifetime. As you can see, there's 3 balls there. I think that's pretty amazing. And Mom also is into quilting, so the Wacky Club, and we have some representatives here. Thank you so much. And they did a small lap quilt for Mom. And here's Dad with his golfing buddies. It's the only picture I have of his golfing buddies, at least the ones that I have access to. Anyways, I don't know who the guys are, or where they are, but I suspect it's Florida, but it looks like they're having a good time. And here's Mom admiring the Wacky Club lap quilt that she got on the day of the anniversary. And here is some pictures. Now, is Pierre still here? Yeah, so there's some of your pictures over here. So they're lovely. So here's almost the whole clan. Of course, we're missing Doug, of course, and Russell, I guess. But on the day of, it was a really lovely celebration in April that we had as a family. And some of you might have been there. So here's the grandchildren. And there's Joyce, Sarah, and Phil. And then we have Larry, Lee, and Brenda. So it's sort of the family groupings. Precious pictures. And then we have Paul and Cindy in the crowd, and then my crowd, and we had a exchange student with us, Bruno, who's at the very bottom left, and we just included in our pictures. family for a few months. And I think that's it. So that's, I'll turn it over to Mark now. Thank you.
All right. Severin's going to sing a piece now. Severin actually, we're pretty sure he's our son. He's got a remarkably good voice. But before that, I have to ask you, since it's Christmas time, why is it that Santa Claus has started hiring humans? He's tired of being short-staffed. Not yet. Back to the day job. Anyway, so Severin's going to sing a piece now.
So this is an American folk song called "The Water Is Wide." I'm sure you'll recognize it once I start. The water is wide, I cannot cross o'er, and neither have I the wings to fly. Build me a boat that can carry two, and both shall row, my true love and I. A ship there is, and she sails the seas. She's laden deep, as deep can be, but not so deep as the love I've been, and I know not if I sink or swim. I lean my back against a young oak, thinking he were a trusty tree. But first he burned, and then he broke. Thus did my love, who falls to me. Oh, love is handsome and love is fine, bright as a jewel when first it's new. But love grows old and waxes cold and fades away like the morning dew, and fades away like the morning dew.
One thing, I was always, Betty was always so very interested. Betty especially, she always wanted to know what the grandchildren were up to. She always paid a lot of attention to, where they were doing, what they were doing in school, and what their hobbies were. So thank you, Severin, and thank you, Nicholas, too, for his music thing as well. One thing I always enjoyed was finding out a little bit more about Bill's background in the RCAF. If you were at the funeral, Catherine mentioned something about how she discovered how badly he did at school. Last night, going through, he graduated at 20 eventually, finally got through the courses, but last night we were going through, I found his RCAF logbooks, which to me are fascinating. Finding out he flew in Lancasters and Neptunes and Argus aircraft DC-3, and it starts off with his first flights, the hours he's accumulated. You see his marks then, though. He had his marks for his navigation skills because he was training for that. And he did a lot better once he got into the RCAF and not in the school system. And he was, got his 70s and 80s navigation, so presumably he was able to get you there and back 4 out of 5 times. But one story which I heard, which I wrote up in the obituary of Bill's, was how he had flown to the North Pole, and I found the photograph last night showing a pre-draw briefing, so to speak, planning the trip. And he had flown to the North Pole and dropped the Canadian flag on January 15th, 1965. And it was February 15th, 1965 that it was first unfurled at Parliament Hill. So he was ahead of the game there, this special flight they'd done. I think that's a really neat little story. I have nothing to do with military myself, though Captain says I've been promoted from being a major problem to a general nuisance. Okay, enough of that. Yeah, again, my day job. All right, seven is spoken. Now it's Paul's turn. Paul, son Paul, where is he? There he is. He says it isn't.
I can be loud enough. Hello, I'm Paul Colotelo. I was the last son, the fourth child. I didn't get off to a very good start. I was born on January the 3rd, and back then you got the full deduction for the year for a child that was born in the year, so I was supposed to be born on the 30th. So I was a disappointment right off the start. Things didn't get any better when I was about 2.5 years old, and I climbed a 2-story scaffold across the street. Mom had let me out, and she forgot her sweater. She went back in, she couldn't find me. Across the street were some people working on a house, and there I was at the top going, "Hi!" She was quite excited. They knew they had a bad one then. You know, interesting, some of the things I remember about them, some of the incidences with me. You know, I thought I was going to come up here and do a story about this quiet, unassuming child, and I said, I can't do that honestly and truthfully. A lot of things I did once, and then I found out what the results were doing, and like you paint your hand red, you go running to mom, "Oh, I cut myself!" My hand was all red and shiny, and I didn't do that again. And Dad always, he was a disciplinarian, he gave you the rules, he told you what the expectations were. He said, if you don't come home by 15 minutes after the street light comes on, your bicycle stays in the garage for 3 days. I thought to myself, what did my bicycle do wrong? It has to stay in the garage for 3 days. But when I tried it out, yeah, he made the bicycle stay in the garage for 3 days. I said, I'm not going to do that again either. I had 100 papers to deliver every day, and you had to walk if I didn't have my bicycle. And other instances like that, it just kind of continued on and on and on. And he, you know, the thing was that the expectations were, when you said you're going to do something, it got done. The same way when he told me something that he's going to do something, it got done. And so this is why how you grew up is that do what you say you're going to do and say what you're going to do and be honest with people and be fair to people. I was a bit of a ruffian, a wrestler and things like this, always getting in little scuffles. And I'd come home with a bloody nose or a cut or something, and Dad told me, he says, I hope I never find out that you picked on anybody who was weaker than you, because you have to come home to me. He says, I don't mind you fighting and doing that stuff, but he says, don't ever take advantage of somebody else. And those are the kind of lessons that he was all the time off after me to just make sure, because he knew I wasn't someone who learned by words, but I learned by actions. You know, by discipline, by, yes, you said you're going to do it, you're going to do it. You have to go to work, you have to go to school, you have to, these are the important lessons in life. When I would get gathered into a gang that got into trouble, he says, if it looks like trouble, it probably is trouble. So just stay away from that. Don't get into the midst of that, because you're going to get blamed the same as anybody else, even if you don't do it. And those are the things that he always emphasized, is that to look around to be responsible for yourself. Because if someone said Paul did it, he never said that wouldn't be my little boy. He said, Paul, were you there? Were you close? I said, well, I was in the neighborhood. He said, well, what did I tell you? If you don't think it's right, it's not right, stay away, you won't get blamed. And these are the type of things that they taught me. They also taught me the responsibility of them is that I used to work till midnight on Friday night, and Dad would be outside the restaurant no matter what the weather to take me home. He'd wait, he'd show up at 11:30, and he'd take me home at midnight. And on the way home, he said, "You're 16-year-old, boy. When are you going to get your license?" You know, but that's just the kind of thing they want. He said, "I don't mind doing this, but you are capable of doing something, go ahead and do it." And that's what, when I was driving traffic, a standard shift, I stalled the car in big traffic downtown Belleville, whatever that is. And I looked at him, and he looked at me and said, "You're driving, boy, get going." And that was it. That was the kind of lesson. You're responsible. You're in the driver's seat. You've got to do it. And it continued on like that through life. When I was a little bit older, I came home, and he said, one of the shots we saw there in the back porch. Well, I dug the holes for that porch. I come home for the weekend to visit, and he said, "Paul, there's 3 holes here, 5 foot deep, about a foot round. One here, and one here." And it says, "Dig till you find them." I did. 3/4 of an acre of grass was delivered on the back of a truck, rolled up on the pallets. And he says, "Paul, you're going to be the delivery boy. Deliver off." He says, "I'm getting a wagon from Sears to come in and bring it, and just drive the lawn tractor around. About 9 o'clock, the Sears truck come. At 9 o'clock and 1 second, it was there. They never even stopped." And that's it. Well, I guess you get to use a wheelbarrow now. 3/4 of an acre of grass rolls with a wheelbarrow. We got her done. And that's the way things are. And he said, always, and the other things, he said, always share with others. What you have, he says, we're not as well off as some, but we're better off than most. So let's not be greedy in whatever you have. You cut, he picks. You get that last piece of pie or something. You know, we always want to make things fair to everybody. And that was the whole thing. Be fair to other people, be fair in your life, don't take advantage of others, and do everything like that. He used to come and watch me play sports, but he was never like, you did good or you did bad, but you try your best, your effort. That's what counts in life, is how hard you can try, because everybody has different abilities, but not everybody has the same skill to do it. But I blend all this in, I think of everything, and one of the things that I try to teach people that they taught me, that I try to tell other people is, if we go through life and we treat people the same way that we like other people to treat us, we probably will do little wrong. And that's probably the biggest lesson that I learned from them. They showed me the way, and I try to follow the way. Thank you.
Excellent. Next, Nicholas. Making sure he doesn't have a mouthful of crumbs. So Nicholas has a couple of pieces he'd like to share. A little bit more upbeat than the last ones. Okay, I think Vicky would like to say something. She's the most prepared of everyone. She's actually written
You
it.
did. Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Hello, I'm Vicky. I'm Bill and Betty's granddaughter. So growing up outside of Ottawa, I usually got to visit Grandma and Papa once or twice a year. But when I started school in Waterloo, I got to see them more. I was able to take the train to visit them a couple weekends a year. After graduating in Waterloo, I got waitlisted for a postgrad program here at Lambton College in Sarnia. Grandma, being the biggest supporter of her grandchildren, didn't think that was fair. When I explained that there were only spots for a few students, Grandma blatantly said, "Yes, I understand, but you deserve one of those spots." Shortly after Grandma passed away, I got accepted to the program, and so began my time in and love for Sarnia. While in school, I rented a place close to the college, but Grandpa and I always made sure to get together at least once a week, usually on Sundays. Grandma took me out for breakfast, showed me all the places him and Grandma used to like to go to eat. We did some shopping, and then usually spent the afternoon in his apartment, practicing on Facebook and practicing on using his iPad. Finally, we always watched golf, but most afternoons ended with both of us napping. After graduating from Lambton College, I applied for a master's program and again got waitlisted. Like Grandma had felt before, Grandpa said it wasn't fair and I should have got accepted. This time I didn't get pulled from the wait list, so I spent another year in Sarnia working at Gabby Joe's. Grandpa often came in to visit, to eat or to have a milkshake while I was working. All my coworkers got to know Grandpa. They called him G-Pa and loved saying hi when he stopped in. Finally, the following year, I reapplied for the master's program and got accepted. After me, I think Grandpa was the most excited that I got in. The day after I got accepted, Grandpa had 3 maps of Montreal ready for me, with various areas highlighted and X'd out. After the school year, the past summer, I returned to Sarnia. This time I lived with Grandpa. Grandpa and I had a great summer. We loved eating French fries and going for ice cream. I also really just enjoyed our time together at the apartment, reading our own books, discussing current events, and fighting over the comics from the newspaper. During the summer, whenever I complained about the weather, fearing it would cancel one of my baseball games, Grandpa was quick to open multiple apps, weather apps, to track the storms and explain the weather systems to me. He was better at predicting my rainout games, better than the local weather network. Grandpa came to watch a couple of my baseball games this summer, and he also took me to the driving range and taught me how to swing a golf club. He was a great teacher, and he got me hitting the ball in a straight line at 100 yards consistently. Finally, as anyone who visited Grandpa would understand, as soon as he found a food that I liked, he bought copious amounts of it. I'm not exaggerating. In the fridge at all times this summer, there was always at least 3 pints of strawberries, 4 cucumbers, and a full bag of mini peppers. Anticipating me moving there, Grandpa had also stocked his freezer with 8 liters of ice cream, 4 different flavors, that I worked all summer trying to eat. The Grandpa I got to know during my time in Sarnia was smart, funny, and kind. He loved golf, reading, and his family. He also loved Sarnia. He loved the weather relative to other parts of the province. He loved going over to Port Huron, and he loved watching the ships pass under the bridge. I definitely shared my love for Sarnia with Grandpa, but it's not going to be the same without him here. Thanks for the memories, Papa.
Thank you, Vicki. Yeah, Vicki had this rare chance to spend a lot of time with Granddad, in the last few months especially. And now I think Joyce, Mary's Joyce, she has a few words to say. Are you here? Oh, there she is. Come on. Yeah, sure.
Hello, I'm Joyce. Can you hear me? Hello? There. I'm Bill and Betty's first daughter, second child. And I'm really glad this is a memorial for both of them. Because really they grew up together. They matured into adults together. Mom was barely 19 years old with 3 kids to look after, and Dad had to look after them, feed them, house them, clothe them. So he had to find out in a hurry how he was going to manage to do all this. And so over the years, we managed to have 2 more kids. We moved around and got bigger homes and furniture and learned how to be good kids and got lost our way sometimes. But their main objective was to teach us how to be good people, like they were. And for the most part, I think we did a really good job. And so now we're all adults and living our own lives, independent people, self-sufficient. And that to me is a sign of a good parent, when your kids can be as good as the parents were. And now they're going to be together forever. They weren't separated that long. So we have really good memories of them, lots of pictures, so we can create new memories and forget the bad ones and just keep going and have really happy thoughts about it. So, I hope everyone remembers them with good thoughts in mind, with good experiences and lovely treasures of how they were really nice people. Thank you very much.
Right. And I think to close out this part of feel very free to stay with us, and of course, big Colotelo's, lots of food still. So feel free to stay around and chat with us and eat. We're saving the shit. Mom's worried I can get Allison. Allison would like to come up. Allison's also granddaughter of Bill and Betty, so she has many things to say.
Thanks everybody for coming. I am obviously Bill and Betty's granddaughter, but also Colin's oldest daughter. When we were growing up in our family, we had 2 sets of grandparents. And when Andrew and Vicki and I were younger, we had a hard time telling them apart. And so we had to come up with our own names for them to know who was coming. When Mom and Dad said, Grandma and Papa are coming, we knew which set it was. So my mom's parents were Grandma and Papa with peppermints, because my grandma always had a stash of peppermints in her purse or in the dish beside her chair, and we'd go to visit her and we would rate that. My dad's parents were Grandma and Papa Poopsie. And that was because of the pet name that Grandma always used for us when we were little. But I don't really know where it came from, aside from that, but I know that when I told my friends that my Grandma and Papa Poopsie were coming to visit, they were like, what's a Poopsie? That's really weird. But it was our special thing, and we knew what we were talking about, and we knew who was coming to visit, and that's what was important. When we were pretty young, Grandma and Grandpa moved away from Ottawa, so we didn't get to see them quite as often as when we were really young. So when they came to visit, it was always a really special occasion. I remember them bringing laundry baskets full of little things that they had purchased on their travels or in the States when they were down in Florida that they would bring to our house. And something as benign as a dishcloth was really exciting because Grandma and Papa had brought it for us and bought it for us. When we would come down to visit them in Sarnia, we had lots of rituals and traditions that we used to do, visiting family like Uncle Bob and Aunt Beulah and their family, also great grandma and Doris and Uncle Nick. We also like to go shopping in the US. We got to go to some cool stores that we didn't get to see in Ottawa, like Target before it took over Canada. And also going to the farm at Canterra Park and feeding all the animals. That was always a highlight for us and something that we wanted to do. Grandma was always making gifts for us. All of her grandchildren at one point, she made us all a quilt. My quilt I got when I was in high school. That quilt went with me to university, to grad school, and finally out west where I moved to start my career. I remember Grandma telling me that one day I would want a sewing machine. And I said no, I don't like that kind of stuff. I'm not going to want a sewing machine. But Grandma was right, and now I want to sewing machine. And thankfully I have her crafting team, and so I try to carry on that tradition and making gifts for people for birthdays and Christmas and stuff. When Grandma was alive, Papa was always more reserved. He was always a little bit more on the periphery. We always gravitated towards Grandma. She was this really unique force. And Papa just kind of stayed on the sidelines. He was there, and he took care of us. And in true Colotelo fashion, he always made sure that our bellies were full. Papa loved to stock the refrigerator with chocolate milk when he would come to visit, or buy cases of microwave popcorn for my brother Andrew so that he had snacks after dinner. He also liked to take us out to dinner. If it was a really special occasion, like Grandma's birthday, we would get to go to Wags. That's where I first had chicken Oscar with Grandma. At the time, I decided I didn't like crab, and she said, that's okay, it's an acquired taste. And at the time, I didn't believe her, but Grandma again was right, and now I like crab. We also used to go for ice cream on Point Edward, and Grandpa would buy fish and chips from the wharf, which is always a special treat because they were still wrapped in newspaper, like the good old days. After Grandma passed away, Grandpa really started to get the shell, and we got to know him as an individual and on a better basis, especially Vicky, who got to spend some years here with Grandpa. And I was lucky enough to spend a few days with him a couple of Christmases ago after Grandma had passed, and he would show me all the new places that he had found and some of the old places that he and Grandma used to visit. And that was a really special experience, and it was really nice to be able to talk with him and interact with him on an individual level. And with that, I'd like to make a toast to my grandparents first. So for those of you who still have a drink or a cup or whatever you want to use, we love them, we miss them, but we're happy for the time that we had them here. Cheers.